Good evening. The former chairman of the SABC Board, Dr. Ngubane, has told the Zondo Commission to state capture that they appointed Hlaudi Motsoeneng to senior positions because he had good communication skills and could get things done. He also said he knew Motsoeneng did not have a matric, that people with qualifications had been unable to make certain things happen. Ngubane was chairman of the SABC board when Motsoeneng began his rise to senior management positions at the corporation. Ngubane then became the chairman of Eskom. He's been accused of allowing the Guptas to make money through corruption there. Manqoba Mchunu was back in the Zondo Commission today. Manqoba, good evening to you. What did Ngubane say about why he supported Hlaudi Motsoeneng so strongly?
Well, of course, I think we heard him sing Hlaudi Motsoeneng's praises, saying that Hlaudi Motsoeneng was a hands-on person. He says that, he was seen as, somebody was a troubleshooter, he says, and somebody who used to make things happen. So he says they got Hlaudi into the stakeholder relations post in the CEO's office in order to, be the kind of sort of a middleman between the staff as well as management. And he says then he also moved to the board because he was just simply hands-on and is a person that people could relate to. He says Hlaudi had people skills, and those were the skills that they needed at the time. And of course he says, despite his qualifications, the fact that he didn't have a matric, he believes that, Hlaudi was the right person for the job. Other people simply couldn't do the job that they wanted. Let's take a listen, Stephen.
For the position of Group Executive for Stakeholder Relations was possession of matric not a requirement, and was possession of matric not a requirement for appointment as acting CEO or COO. So I think that's where you might wish to focus.
Yes, Chairperson. We knew he didn't have matric, but we knew that he could deliver what we wanted, and that's what guided us. We know normally you would want to have those qualifications, but when people with those qualifications fail, you then try anything.
So, Manqoba, despite everything that happened, and a lot happened around Hlaudi Motsoeneng, does Ngubane still believe he did the right thing?
Well, certainly. I mean, you can even hear it from his speech when he speaks. He speaks of this young man, He speaks of, this young man who came into the Free State office, and when he wrote the stories that he wrote, he was just simply fantastic. So, from his tone of voice, you can kind of hear that, this is somebody that they were proud of, This is somebody that he believes they made a right decision on. Of course, we know what followed after that, all of the other shenanigans involving Hlaudi Motsoeneng, but I still think that, from the tone that he presented at the State Capture Commission, he still does believe that him and Hlaudi, as they've expressed before during that inquiry in 2017 in Parliament, that they really did save the SABC.
Okay, in the middle of all of this with the New Age breakfast, now this was a deal, as I understand it, where the SABC seemed to put up all the facilities, and yet the New Age seemed to get most of the revenue. How does he defend that deal?
In fact, they got all of the revenue, which is about 20 million rand. We know that for a fact. That was part of the evidence that we had last week. Of course, he says at the time when they signed that partnership, of course, they just wanted some sort of content for news, which they say they wanted to attract more viewers from it. And they believe that this was a right platform which, could relate to many people because it brought government to the people. But he says, they believe that this was a worthwhile venture because it simply upped their revenue. In terms of advertising, they saw an increase in advertising revenue. And of course, we do know that, the others that gave testimony last week, the CFO, were speaking otherwise, saying that the SABC lost about to the tune of millions from this particular deal. But interestingly, Stephen, we also got the same question being asked to him about his relationship with the Guptas and whether or not he had anything to do with this deal with regards to the TNA deal that, the SABC had undertaken with the New Age. And let's take a listen to what he had to say about this.
There was this business partnership for morning breakfasts. I attended those breakfasts, not all of them, but quite a lot of them. And I would sit with the people in the New Age, editors, members of the Gupta family. And on a few occasions, I went to social events at their home. And that is really the exposure I had to that family.
Yes. Were you, just as the start of the New Age newspaper, were you involved at all? Did you assist with the negotiations of the New Age deal and the TNA breakfast?
No, this was an initiative through our news.
All right, so tomorrow, that's Ben Ngubane testifying today, Dr. Ben Ngubane, I should say. Tomorrow, Manqoba, who's going to be on the stand?
Well, of course, we expect to hear from the man himself, the man who's been, fingered in so many of those controversial decisions at the SABC. We heard from the SABC 8 about allegations of his interference in the newsroom and instructions that he had given to the effect that, to protect the former president and so forth. So we expect to hear from him and to answer on those allegations, the serious allegations, and of course to answer very critical questions about the TNA deal and some of those, controversies that surrounded his term as COO of the SABC.
Manqoba, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it. Our reporter, Manqoba Mchunu, in the Zondo Commission for you. In other news,